No.
Ah, that's different.
Yes, what a difference.
There's a difference you can hear, there's a difference you can see, but the difference in
Solar Detroit
is quality.
Yes, friends, when you compare Long's
podcasts,
you'll find that in
Solar Detroit's,
the difference is quality. Quality of
conversations.
The finest Turkish and domestic varieties, extra mild and superbly blended to give you a much different, much better flavor and aroma than any other Long's
podcast.
You ask interrogative questions out of my face. It's gone.
What are you doing? Come on.
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now, Albert?
Hello, my good friends. Welcome back to ML Soul of Detroit. We are coming to you live from the Soul of Detroit, and this week is a double hit from the East Side. Our guest will be my wife, Free Press reporter extraordinaire, reigning Michigan Journalist of the Year, Teresa Baldus. Among the reporters that she beat was me. I nominated myself, and I nominated her. So I got to go back to thinking about whose letter I spent more time on. But it may just be that her work was better. That could have been what the judges decided on, because obviously I'm prettier. And we have our regular cast of fools, Mark Fellhauer, Sean Windsor, whose columns we're going to be talking about a little bit later on the show. We're also going to have a little sponsor read from Sir Speedy, which is Sean's porn name, and Matt Jennings with Soft History. And Joe Zuver is wisely keeping his head down through this whole firefight, and of course helping you get this on Facebook Live, where we're pleased to be brought to you by Sir Speedy. If you own or work at a company that needs marketing materials, it's time for you to listen up. The newest sponsor of Solar Detroit podcast is Sir Speedy. Print, signs, marketing in Harper Woods, Troy, and Novi. Whatever you need when it comes to marketing materials, Sir Speedy has you covered. Brochures, signage, direct mail campaigns, promotional products, you name it, and Sir Speedy can do it. They have a full creative staff that can help you design whatever you may need. So if you're a company that's just starting up and needs to get your marketing game going, or you're a company that needs to take your marketing materials to the next level, you need to call my friends at Sir Speedy. Their number is 586-777-7500. That's 586-777-7500, as they say in Ireland. Or visit their website, sirspeedydetroit.com, to get your marketing project going today. And of course, when you call them, let them know that ML Elric and his friends at the Soul of Detroit sent you their way. And we are coming to you on Facebook Live, as we do every week. We appreciate it when you tune in, but it's also worth remembering you're not getting the full show on Facebook Live. You're missing Room 7609. You're missing some great material that we save for the back end of the audio podcast, as well as some of your letters, calls, and some insides and insights on some special deals from our swag store. So we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you sharing it. But give us a listen, too, because it's more than white noise, and we appreciate the download, quite frankly. So joining me from the kitchen, where she does a lot of bitching, is Teresa Baldus of the Detroit Free Press to talk about her investigation into the medical examiner's office in Macomb County. How do I put this gently? I don't think there's any way to put this gently. Her stories not only are bringing about some change in Macomb County. I think she's working on a new story that should be breaking soon, a latest development, but also she is responsible for getting the term penis cake into a headline.
Well done.
At the Free Press. So maybe that's what you got to do to be Journalist of the Year. I guess I just don't go down market like that, which is not a euphemism. Let me just say that my journalism's up here, baby. I got a face.
What a cheap shot. She didn't get to choose what happened in the story.
She did not choose the content, and we should be clear that there's nothing funny about sexual harassment. There's nothing funny about making racially insensitive pranks, jokes, comments. We don't stand for that here. You shouldn't have to stand for that where you work. If you're being abused or harassed, we encourage you to talk to your HR department, to reach out to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission who deals with these sorts of things. You don't have to take it. We sure as hell wouldn't, and we don't think you should either.
I do
and some
feel,
people who
though,
are sick of it stood up.
I do feel, though, that penis cake being in a headline leads to a lot of clicks. Do you have any feedback, Teresa, as to how well received or how well read the story was?
The story was very well read, and I actually only had one email where someone complained about the headline, that they thought that it was perhaps too sensationalized. But as I said, when you clicked on that headline and read the story delivered. It was about a serious story about women saying they work in a hostile workplace where people feel comfortable being sexist and racist. And that's what the story was about, and that's what the story said.
Now, for those that don't know, it's the Macomb County Morgue, and a woman had complained multiple times. Do we know how many times she complained to her bosses? Approximately?
In the past, she did complain. I mean, over a dozen times. I mean, this went on for about 5 years, and other people complained too. And if they complain, this woman alleges that, they were either bullied into being quiet or quitting their jobs. One woman actually did quit. One woman was fired. She has a complaint with the EEOC that I believe has settled, but that complaint is still pending against the Macomb County Medical Examiner's offices from about 5 years ago. But she just she got tired of it after years and years of complaining, coming into the office and seeing pornography on screensavers, hearing insensitive comments about Black families that would show up asking about their loved ones and people snickering. Allegedly, of course, this is her version.
Well, to that point, because the people that lost their jobs were employees, not the supervisors that she complained to, correct?
Correct. There will be a development. I do believe that
the boss will be in trouble.
Supervisory position has lost their job.
Breaking news! Breaking news here on the Soul of Detroit. Take that, LaDuff!
Well, I just mean
we'll be
shave
fine.
that.
But so the three women who and that's what's interesting about this case. I did get a lot of emails from people saying, "I'm surprised these were women." I was reading the story and I just assumed or presumed that these were men doing these things, but the sexist comments were all women.
Hey,
women were fired for engaging in inappropriate workplace behavior involving pornography, sex comments.
I'm so for equality that I know that women can be quite dirty too and vulgar when they want to be. I don't have a problem with it, but I don't know if you do have a problem with it, you don't want to work for it in a public setting like that, because that is a public entity, right? The morgue.
It is. And whether it's public or private, I mean, a professional workplace should not be one where you walk in and people's screensavers are men in thongs or naked men.
Sure.
I mean, there was, I've seen some of the images, and they're quite graphic. And I mean, it was almost as if it was constant. There was an ongoing, and this is what the woman said, and this is what, if these pictures were real and true that I've seen, the women who worked in this office, not all, only 3, and now I believe 4 have been fired over it. Just went a little too far. And the allegations also, aside from the inappropriate sexual banter and comments and pictures on the wall, this woman has said that inappropriate stuff about Black people was made in inappropriate comments, and that really bothered her too, because she is a person of color. Mm-hmm. And she alleges that when Black people would come in or they had questions, they would say to her, "Go deal with your people." Perhaps the most offensive allegation that I heard was that an African American couple came in. There was a decomposed body that they didn't know was their son or not, and somebody joked, one of the people who worked there, they said, "Well, why, tell him to look at his penis. Maybe they'll recognize him by that." And then they all laughed. It's stuff like that. These again are allegations. The human resource director in Macomb County has said they haven't been able to substantiate anything about racism, but the sexual hostility and harassment stuff was substantiated.
Question about the cake. It happened weekend after the George Floyd murder in Minneapolis. Was that the sole reason for bringing the cake in? Was it someone's, birthday, or was there any event that surrounded the cake, or someone just brought in a Black penis cake?
I'm not sure there may have been a birthday because there were, along with the cake, there were balloons, these giant balloons. And on the balloons, they had drawn with like a Sharpie penises.
Mm-hmm.
And so was it about an event? I don't know. But that cake was what pushed her over the edge, she says, after, much hemming and hawing. Do I go to the EEOC? Do I go to HR with a formal complaint? And, I think her comment said it best. It was the cake actually arrived the day after George Floyd died.
Okay. So it's worth noting here too that whether you work for a public employer or a private employer, you should not be subjected to this sort of harassment, this sort of workplace environment. Now, these are allegations, of course, so we have to presume that the truth will eventually be determined. But this is, people have been fired over this, so there's been some wrongdoing established. But you don't have to put up with this stuff. Whether they're pictures of men or women in thongs, they shouldn't be in your office. And if you can't get a boss or employees, colleagues to treat you the right way, you can also go to private attorneys. I mean, this is a matter that you just don't have to put up with. And when I read Teresa's story, I guess a couple of things really struck me. One was that this one case, it took almost 4 years for them to resolve that. I mean, what kind of message does that send to employees that someone makes a complaint at great probably duress to themselves, and then it takes 4 years to get to the bottom of it? I mean, that's, whether it's founded or unfounded, that's absolutely unacceptable. It's ridiculous. It's unfair to the person who made the complaint. It's unfair to the people who've been accused to have to labor under that cloud for 4 years. And the other thing is, multiple people, at least according to Teresa's reporting, complained about this cake, and nobody did anything about it. There's part of me that says somebody should have just taken that cake on the first day and said, not here, I'm throwing this in the garbage. I mean, what the hell? How do you leave a cake like that laying around?
I was offended because it sat around for 4 days. I mean, who wants to leave a cake sitting around for 4 days? It's just gross.
Yeah, it turns into biscotti. Right, Sean?
Right. Whatever you say.
Coming to us from the right, Sean Windsor, everybody.
I'm not, biscotti's fine. Whatever you say. No, get back to your thing, man.
Okay.
Well, why did it take so long? I mean, how long do accusations usually take to get reviewed in Macomb County?
Well, actually, the older case, it did go to the EEOC. Like if you work somewhere and you want to bring a sexual harassment complaint in the workplace, you first, by federal law, you have to go to the EEOC and you file a complaint with them, and then they investigate it. And then the EEOC will either say, we agree with you and we're going to join you in your lawsuit, or they say, we think you have enough merit. Here is your official letter from us. It's called a right to sue letter. We're not going to join you, but we think you have some merit here. Or they say, we don't know either way, but here's your right to sue letter. And so I think what happened in this other case, this woman, the EEOC, I believe, did side with her. And I think she did settle the case with the county. But when I spoke with the human resource director, he was the one that told me, he said, we have a second one that's still pending against the office. And I said, is it the one from 2015? And he said, yes. So what he meant by pending, I don't know. Are there more people that have been targeted in that? I don't know. But the follow-up reporting is going to be, who let this happen? On whose watch did this happen? These women complained to supervisors. What is it? This isn't funny. This is gross. And nobody did anything. And the last story that I did was specifically about the medical examiner, Daniel Spitz, where they're investigating to see, well, was he in charge of the administrative office or was he just the science guy?
How does that usually work? Do we know? Is a coroner usually the administrator?
I looked at his contract, and his contract when he was hired said, yes, that he would be hired as the chief medical examiner and administrator of the office. Ooh. And it spelled out his duties. You will fire, you will hire, you will oversee day-to-day operations. And back in I think it was 2013, there was some question over whether Spitz was working too much, that if he could handle the workload, because he's also the medical examiner in St. Clair County.
Oh, wow.
And the board was thinking, how can you do both? That's just too much. And they were trying to, they wanted to ask him about this, and he wasn't responding to their request for an interview. He rejected 7 of their requests for an interview. So they actually had to subpoena their own medical examiner to force them to meet with them and answer these questions. So anyway, I got a copy of that interview. And when they asked him, are you too busy for this? He said, oh, no. He said, this was his direct quote, I'm in the office every day. So,
well, then he should have known this stuff was going on if he's the administrator. What does that position pay? And does, obviously, doing St. Clair County gets another salary, correct?
I don't know what he makes in St. Clair, but he has a private company. It's him and another medical examiner. Macomb County pays them. It's now $425,000 a year. He's on a 4-year contract. I think it started off at like $410,000. Then it was 400. It's not $425,000
for the company.
And it's called Spitz Incorporated. I forget. It's in my story, but that's other counties will. You're a county employee, and I think that's what is going to be a gray area here. Does he actually work for? He's not a Macomb County hired employee. Yeah. He's a contracted employee, and I believe the argument is going to be that he was not the direct person overseeing all this, where on paper it says just the opposite.
Bill on Facebook Live raises a good question. He's wondering if they're all over 18. They are. I'm assuming they are all over 18. The question for me, though, is how old are these people that are, obviously can't read a room? There's plenty of complaints about them. It sounds like a pretty wild environment to work. Do we know how old the people that were fired were?
I don't have their ages.
Okay.
But it sounds like they can read a room, because it sounds like there were multiple people who were responsible for this workplace environment. At least when 3 people are fired and a 4th person's being investigated, when you read these stories, it sounds like
But
just
she allegedly complained
girls gone
to them.
wild, but in not like in the videos, just
look. I've worked in some pretty wild environments where. Hey, there were plenty of
morning show stuff.
Yeah, and there was once a complaint, and we fixed it, though, and knew to that person. I don't know. Of course, it wasn't 2020 then either.
Well, the other thing, too, is when you have a complaint filed in 2005, how many people, or 2014, whatever it was, how many people knew the complaint was filed, and how many people knew the complaint was filed and said, it's been 4 years, that ain't never going to happen.
Sure.
It's sort of like that $20 somebody owes you and they've owed you forever. At some point, you just say, in theory, they owe me $20. In reality, I just need to move on because I ain't ever going to see that kind of money. I also want to jump in to announce some breaking news. It looks like the city of Detroit has reached a deal with some private developers to bring Amazon to the state fairgrounds and possibly a transit center. So that site at 8 Mile and Woodward, where you've seen Meijer go up and where the drive-through testing site has happened. It looks like some negotiations are going on. The city of Detroit is getting ready to sell some land. They're actually going to get money for it. They're not going to be giving it away or providing any tax incentives, and that we may end up having some sort of facility that could bring up to 1,200 jobs to the city of Detroit. So that's interesting. That's exciting. That's a little bit new kind of deal for the city of Detroit, and you can read more about that at freep.com as we speak. That story is being reported by, I believe, my colleague Adrian Roberts.
So you're saying that the city didn't give any kind of tax break to be there, or they're just, how cheap are they selling this land?
That's what I'm reading. It says here the development team will pay $9 million for the land based on a recent appraisal.
Wow.
They'll pay $7 million for a new DDOT transit center, which a lot of public transit fans have been concerned about that site not being utilized as a hub for city and suburban transit handoff. There's 2 ways of looking at this. Is the city getting more viable that they can afford to charge for land as opposed to give it away because we're just so desperate for anybody to come here and, do whatever it is? Or is the city starting to respond to some concerns that they've been making these deals a little too sweet for developers and not sweet enough for the taxpayers? So that's not an easy question to answer, and I would be very suspect of anybody who says they know the answer because deals in this town are not easy to make happen. But,
so
we shouldn't be giving shit away either.
The city bought that from the land bank, that particular land, for $7 million 2 years ago, and now they're selling it for $9 million. Pretty good return on investment, according to the story in the Free Press. And they never get it wrong. Exactly.
That's the penis cake paper, right? So they get stuff right.
Exactly. Yes.
So, Teresa, anything else you can tell us about this? Anything people can look forward to before we let you go and try and come up with another scoop, but not a scoop of ice cream to go with any kind of cake?
Just basically stay tuned. The stories going forward are who was responsible for this. Well, who was responsible for letting this happen, and is anybody at the top going to pay a price for this? Who are they going to hold accountable for letting this happen? And is it going to happen at all? So that's what's coming up.
Wow.
And also, where are these people going to land? They've lost their jobs now in the middle of a pandemic. Where are they going to go? And if you live in Macomb County and someone dies and you need a death investigator to come to your house, they've, an office of 12 or 15 people just lost 4 employees. Yeah. So you might be waiting a little bit. They are getting help from other counties, but.
Well, if those employees were acting the way they were alleged to have acted, I don't think it's much of a loss, but certainly the workforce has been reduced. So, so that's Teresa Balch of the Detroit Free Press coming to you live from my kitchen. So thanks for joining us, Teresa. And you can read Teresa's stories for free for another 24 hours. But starting tomorrow, the Free Press is joining the many media organizations that have instituted a paywall, which means in order to see that great content, you're going to have to pay for some of it, which, if you ask me, is only fair. Listen, folks, the best things in life may be free, but news gathering is not. It ain't cheap to get these stories. We spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of effort, and we don't work for free. So we need to get you to subscribe. And what's going to end up happening is about 5 stories every day will be put behind a paywall. And when you go to read them, you'll receive a message that says, here's the headline. And if you want the rest, you need to subscribe. The subscription rates are super cheap. And I wholly encourage you to do it, because if you don't, people like me are real high on the list of people to get laid off if we don't start making some money over there at freep.com. So please subscribe. I think you'll find it's well worth it. And what the hell? Do your part, man.
Question for you on this.
Yes, sir.
Number one, what took them so long? Because it seems like that's clearly the way to go. And number 2, do you guys have any insight as to what will be behind the paywall?
Yeah, so one reason it's taken a while, in fact, when we had our first staff meeting, when they announced this, I said, finally, I wrote an email to Gracia Martori, who was the CEO at the time in 2007, saying, where the hell is this paywall you said we're going to get? That was 2007. And so I was trying to think to myself, well, what other emails did I write to corporate that might happen now? This is great. It's, I came back
listening.
just in time.
Yeah.
But
Nostradamus.
Yes, that's right.
Once again.
These are the same.
He's always right, Sean.
Yeah, I should say that at that time, the corporate leadership were the same people. Well, it wasn't the same people, but they work out of the same offices that sent us an email that said, you guys are doing a great job on those Kirkpatrick stories.
Oh, boy. Well, it's a spell check correction.
Yeah. So all those people are gone. The new regime has instituted this, and I think one of the reasons why is because they're exploring different models and what works best. Gannett is now, I believe, the largest newspaper company in the country, maybe in the world, and different sites, different cities have different paywalls. Some are 5 free stories a month. Some are you have to pay for everything you get. The Free Press has been doing mad traffic. I think we had like 100 million page views last month, and I think they're reluctant to lower those numbers because advertisers do look for those things, because even when you subscribe, it's like this podcast, it's like TV, it's like radio. The cost of producing this is heavily subsidized by sponsors and advertisers, but they're just not enough of them to get it done. We have almost no overhead thanks to the generosity of Drew Lane, so we're not as dependent on that stuff as other places. But newspapers still have printing plants, they still have trucks, they still have old guys like me with defined benefit pensions that need to be supported. So we have to change. We have to find some new revenue streams. They've been doing a good job trying to raise money with events and things like that, and one-day universities and all these other sort of, intellectual pursuits. but that's all been shut down because of COVID-19. So
has Gannett used another paper as a test subject for this, where they see, okay, we had this many clicks, we moved to a paywall, and this is what happened? I mean, they have to, right? Would they do that to the Free Press and News, or are you guys the test subject?
Now the news is separate.
Or,
but they're also
separate.
instituting
And
a paywall.
Mark, if I may, let me answer the question, please. The
Thank
original
you.
question that Mike did not.
The filibuster.
I was filibustering.
Yeah, it's really not that complicated. So, and he mentioned the metrics and the numbers. The Free Press has an enormous digital footprint, and you mentioned the 100 million page views. So far above anybody else in the company that they were reluctant to mess with that, even though there are paywall sites all over the company, have been for a while. This has been coming for at least a year. I can remember the editors talking about it maybe further back. With us, it's going to be a little bit more fluid. I don't think there's a designed number of free stories yet. But in terms of the actual content about what's behind the paywall and what's going to be free,
I was wondering when you're going to answer that original question. That was how you jumped in.
That wasn't the question. He said, why did it take so long? And I got
he also said, what kind of stuff will be behind a paywall there, Rip Van Windsor?
And that'll be, you know what? That's okay. You can soliloquy all you want, my man. It is your show, I guess. In any case, Mark, it's a mathematical equation.
Yeah.
That's what's going to drive what's free, what's not. They're going to have to figure that out. It's fluid.
Yeah, I guess in plain English, sometimes Sean's columns will be behind the wall. Sometimes Teresa's stories will be the wall. Maybe there'll be a video behind the wall or a photo gallery. Something like that. Like one of the things I think would be, well, maybe I better not say that. Let's wait till we can get your money. But it's going to rotate. And there are some things that may be the sort of thing that you'd be willing to pay for that we won't charge for because we think there's such a public service component to it that we don't want people who might not be able to afford a subscription to be denied that information.
Yeah, we've seen that with other papers, with coronavirus, with the protest, you know.
Yeah, I don't think the Free Press, the New York Times and the Washington Post are both making all COVID-19 coverage free. I don't think the Free Press is going to go in that way. I think it's going to be more of a day-to-day decision-making process. But it's, it's a work in progress. But to those of us who think that our work has value and deserves to be paid for, I think we're excited about this, and we encourage you to give us a chance. If you subscribe and it's not to your liking, you can unsubscribe. It's not going to be really tricky. So please do that, because here's what happens if you don't do that. Soul of Detroit 5 days a week, and nobody wants that shit.
No, definitely not.
Freep.com. We'll make it easy for you to subscribe.
Mark and I definitely don't want it.
Yeah, I know. That's another 50 minutes of work every week for you, Sean.
You could be, you and Matt could do it.
And I know
since when is talking work for you?
Just you wait, mister.
I mean, you talk when you're sleeping.
Do you think it's easy to be this banal? I'm actually a very interesting person. I'm trying to dumb it down. And I'm still putting you to sleep.
And now you're insulting your readers. That's nice.
I know listeners. Teresa approves of it so much that she's already bailed on the video and has moved on. But before we forget,
all guests appearing on ML Soul of Detroit receive a 12-pack of Altus Lager.
Oh, he loves beer.
So more beer for the Elric household.
Yeah. So Teresa's story was great. We'd be talking about it anyways. But I really could use another 12-pack of Altus. So that's why.
There you go.
That's another reason we had her on. And speaking of Altus, if you aren't a guest on this show, but you want some Altus, it's waiting for you at your friendly neighborhood store. In fact, if you can get into a bar, maybe you can sit on a patio. It's on tap at fine establishments throughout Michigan. And it's a Detroit original. Detroit lager, made in Detroit, brewed right here in the city. It's making a comeback here in the greatest city in the world. And it's the do anything, anytime, with anyone beer. I love to grab a case when I go to hockey, and the guys, they say, bring me some more. In fact,
a bunch of mooches.
I need to bring some because I'm kind of a little behind.
I guess we know who's going to be who's going to be the guest next week, the whole hockey team. Yeah,
I know. They keep saying, it's like, you keep saying you're going to bring it to hockey. So I will. I brought it to hockey. I'll bring some more. Anyways, the fun fact about Altus is it only takes 6 to turn anyone into a 10. There's a lot of things that started here in Detroit went away. Altus is back and better than ever. Unlike the original, which was the beer that your grandpa, your dad, the guy down the street had in his garage fridge. This one has a lot of flavor, and you're really going to enjoy it. So go get some today. If you don't know where to go to altes.beer. That's ALTES.beer to find the nearest location near you. And if you don't know where to go, or it's not at your local store or local bar, let them know, and they will do their best to get it there. In fact, I think it's now in the coolers at the butchery, so you can get some at the butchery. Altus Beer, Detroit Original, it's back. Go and get you some.
I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts that are set out before me. I'm dug in, and I'll never change.
Freight nut, freight out, freight nut, freight out, freight nut infinity, freight out infinity plus one. No.
As you can see, I'm wearing my New Wave era vintage Michigan State college football jersey from the Tony Banks era, the great Tony. And Nick Saban, I guess he kind of left East Lansing and was never heard from again. So great move, Nick.
Yeah, right. Imagine that. He could have just stayed in East Lansing and been nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's this guy. What the hell was he thinking? Should have gone back to Toledo. No, they won't have him there either anymore.
or Miami.
College football, though, is back, kind of, maybe not. The MAC is done. Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, not going to have football this year. The Big Ten, it looks like, maybe pulling the plug. We're not quite sure. We're hearing that it's going to happen.
They were supposed to have a meeting 2 hours ago as we're recording this right now, and not a word from it, which I think is setting up a really... yesterday was a bizarre day because it leaked out. I want to say, was the Free Press the first to report that... I don't know if you know, Sean, that sources say that there won't be any football, and the vote was 12-2.
Yeah, I think the Free broke it, and there were a couple other outlets that had it around the same time, maybe a little bit later, but yeah.
But what was amazing to me then is you see an explosion online, particularly on Twitter, from coaches, from athletes, not just from the Big Ten, but from all over the country, and then the president and politicians, who were upset with the decision the president's made, allegedly, to cancel the season. And it's moved so much, I kind of wonder, is this going to change the decision that allegedly happened on Sunday?
Well, I think our debate question is, who should make the decision? Should it be the coaches? Should it be the ADs? Should it be the university presidents? And I say this as a Spartan who watched my university, I think, take a wrong turn that led to a lot of problems, decades worth of problems, when the president of the university, John DiBiagio, found in a power struggle with the football coach, George Perlis, that the football coach was more powerful than the university president. And the Michigan State University paid for that for years. We lost a great president. We got stuck with a coach who was okay, who became the athletic director, who was terrible, and who became an awful member of the board of trustees. This decision, I believe, should be made by the university presidents. And at Michigan State, as actually, this is an interesting side note, there are 3 or 4 university presidents in the state of Michigan who are MDs. In our case, Dr. Stanley is an epidemiologist. In other words, how could you have a better person in a position to make decisions like this at Michigan State University? And I think this decision has to be made by the university presidents. And if the ADs and the coaches can't fall into line behind it, they can kiss my natural-born ass.
Well, the problem, though...
This should be driven by science.
That's fine. It may be driven by science, but in the real world, the way things work is you have to look at the actuary of it as to who gets hurt, how bad that hurts your bottom line versus the benefit of going forth with the season. I would say an epidemiologist will always decide to go on the most extreme safe side, as that's what their job is. As a football coach would go on the other extreme side as we have to play. I am surprised, and I would like to see a little more feedback from the people that would be most affected by it, but nobody ever really cares about what players think. I mean, they're the ones that will be out at risk, right? Players and coaches.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we don't want to make this the great debate revisited, but I don't think you should pay players. I think they're handsomely compensated now. But really, if you make them play, even somebody like me would find it hard to argue that they should not be compensated because you are putting them
well, at least their
at
health
risk,
care should
and you
be.
can't put somebody at risk. If you put an NFL player at risk and he has a $10 million signing bonus and things don't go right, I think he can probably live for the rest of his life off that $10 million as long as, it doesn't all go into jewelry and picking up tabs for the boys at the Gold Club or whatever the hell it is in Atlanta.
Well,
but if you're not making it rain, but to me, player safety should be paramount. Preserving amateurism as much as we can in college sports should be paramount. And my heart goes out to the players. My nephew is a college football player at Grand Valley State, and he's crushed that he's not going to be able to play football. But I also would like to see him graduate and live a long, healthy life. And so that's going to be the most important thing.
And that's really what it's about. It's about the money involved. And that's kind of what you wrote about, Sean, with your column today in the Free Press.
Mike, did you just say or suggest that only black players spend a lot of money in the NFL?
Where did you get that?
By saying jewelry and a club in Atlanta, and we know what Atlanta is a reference to. So I'm just curious. I'm curious.
White guys don't wear jewelry and don't go to strip clubs?
Dude, if you don't think what you just said read a certain way, I'm just asking, did you mean it that way or not?
So let me just tell you something, Sean, before you make a fool of yourself. I grew up with a lot of guys on the east side in Grosse Pointe who are all white. Every one of those jokers had a gold chain except for me because I was still doing a paper route. White guys wear jewelry. White guys go to strip clubs. I'm sorry. It's true.
I thought you might say Kansas City, but no, you said Atlanta. I don't know. And you thought about it for a second. I'm just curious. We're going back down.
Because Atlanta is the famous club. I don't know about strip clubs in Kansas City. Why don't you tell me about it, Mr. On the Road Ho Man?
And Lou Williams.
It's going
We're going to check your expenses at the Free Press now.
It's going back down the thug road again. You know what I mean? And I get it. I'm going to be in the minority with our listeners today on this particular thing, but I had to say it. Sorry. All right, back to your question, Mark. What was it?
Well, your column was about what's really going on here, and it's the money aspect. It's not really about the players.
Yes, but it's also just the news yesterday. I mean, Trump jumping in and Senator Sass from Nebraska jumping in. The Republican senator out of Georgia jumping in. Mm-hmm. Folks are jumping in, right, because it's popular with their constituents. This game is. They said nothing when Division II and Division III went down, or when the MAC went down Saturday. Nobody, by the way, tweeted yesterday afternoon when the Mountain West went down. I mean, their seasons are getting canceled. And to me, that's what I wrote about a little bit. It's just the hypocrisy of it. Just say they're there because you want to be entertained. That's fine. That's the system we have. But just say that. Don't act like it's all that Trump tweeted that they've worked so hard. Well, all of those thousands of college football players who have already lost their season, they've worked just as hard too. They're not the ones entertaining us on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday night, right? In Ann Arbor or Tuscaloosa. That's the point I was making.
So who makes the call in your mind, or who should make the call?
The university presidents, along with the trustees and or board members, whomever, however the university or the regents, however the university set up. To me, that's where it's got to be.
Oh, so you want the white guys to decide now? Because they're all the trustees and the regents. I got it now.
I thought Michigan State had at least one black trustee or regent.
Yes, is Joel Ferguson still up there?
He is. We actually have two. There's a woman from Muskegon.
What a wonderful trustee Joel Ferguson is.
But Sean didn't see them because he's
colorblind.
He's staring at too many naked breasts at that strip club in Kansas City, where I think maybe Bobby Higginson met.
Man, I'm just trying to bring you along into the 2020s, get you out of Grosse Pointe. And just trying to bring you along.
Well, I will defend you, ML, because the Atlanta reference is apropos because Lou Williams from the NBA got busted leaving the bubble, and he went to Magic City in Atlanta. So I think that's a fair reference.
I don't even know what that place is. I'm thinking of the place that was infamous for many, many years as being the place where all pro athletes
Magic
went.
City,
but,
big time.
But be that as it may.
Like you've never
so
been there.
Sean says the board of trustees and regents should make the decision. I say
the presidents.
The president should make the decision. So we agree on that, except Sean's still wrong somehow. And Mark, you say it should be
if
the players?
if there's no fans, right? I would like a little more input from the players. I don't know necessarily why they need to make the decision now. What do we have, 3 weeks away? That being said, there's no way you can have players playing if students aren't there because they want to keep up the facade of the student athlete.
Well, in general, I'm big on self-determination, but I know when I was a 18, 19, 20-year-old guy on campus, some of the decisions I made for myself were not the kind of good long-term decisions I would have made. So I say, let's keep it with the presidents. Let's keep it with the professionals. And in Michigan State, let's keep it with the doctor.
Oh, man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek? Or we're turning into cool guys?
I want to tell you about somebody who is most definitely not a geek, and that is Chef Dave at my favorite butcher shop and the place to go for prime meats. That's the Butchery on Orchard Lake Road, just west of Middle Belt. Go in this week and spend $50 or more and tell them ML sent you, and the butcher will give you a free pound of breakfast sausage links. Now, breakfast sausage links are pretty tasty, but these are very special breakfast sausage links. All of their sausage is made in-house from scratch by Chef Dave and, wait for it, Professor Matthew Jennings of Soft History.
Is that a positive?
And Fine Cured Meats. So, wow, that's you want to talk about you got to go to one place to get the one thing you're looking for. That's the place. Go to thebutchery.com to see all their amazing selections and follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook to see what Chef Dave is carving up daily. 248-682-COWS is their number. That's 248-682-COWS. If you went to Michigan State, you already know about cows because we are MooU. And they even have small private cooking classes with Chef Dave and Chef Julie Hubbard. That's the chef's wife. That's Mrs. Hubbard to you. She makes some fantastic desserts. So check them out. It's worth the drive. I've made it. I'll be back. I promise you, you'll be glad you went. Make sure to tell them when you got there that ML sent you. Boy, Geek of the Week. I'm tempted once again to walk Sean onto the floor for...
I thought you were going to nominate yourself.
You never.
Like you nominated yourself for the Journalism of the Year, Journalist of the Month, or whatever. Shit that was. I mean, you know what? I give it to you, though, man. You said that. You actually said that you did that. So I don't know if that's just incredible self-awareness or just you don't give a shit. Or whatever, but I was amazed, and I'm proud of you for saying that. I guess
there's two reasons. One is the contest encourages people to nominate themselves, but more importantly, there's $1,000.
You took that. You took that literally. Yeah.
Well, the winner, she didn't nominate herself.
I took them at their word. I figured that's what they wanted, but
that's like saying when hey, let's get together sometime because you're trying to get out of a conversation. I think that was probably the tone that was used, but
You know what, Sean? Let's get together sometime and discuss that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll be there.
See, that's when you use something in context. That's what the runner-up journalist of the year does.
So are you going to nominate me or not for being the wacko?
I love how you
effeminate,
I like how you've already accepted the runner-up position. Was that actually awarded, the runner-up position to you?
As you know, the runner-up was Phoebe Wall-Howard of the Detroit Free Press. It was a photo finish. She did some excellent work on some defective products at Ford. So
maybe
you can find Phoebe's
ML
work at freep.com, and some of it will probably be behind the paywall because that's the kind of good shit we expect people to pay for.
ML, maybe
she's really good.
Maybe you were the top male writer of the year. Why don't you go with that one?
Maybe I was the top black strip club jewelry attending
you were at
pro athlete finalist.
You were at least runner-up in your household. In your household,
thinking about it now. I did my job. That's good.
Yeah,
you've rattled them.
Moving, fella.
Let me just say this and get myself in a little trouble. But if you're familiar, Sean, with Gentlemen from the Mediterranean, there's a lot of gold on those guys. Okay, there's a lot of hair on the chest. There's a lot of gold. Maybe that's why you don't see the gold because of the hair on the chest.
Yeah, and there are not a lot of them in NFL locker rooms. But keep going.
Mike Moustakas.
It's a baseball.
Really?
Close.
It's baseball. He's a pro athlete.
I thought he played in Kansas City.
Who said NFL? I said pro athletes. And by the way, if
you didn't, but that's all right. Keep going.
If you are one of our more Heresuite members of society, manscaped.com, go there and use promo code ML to get 20% off and free shipping. If you still go there, there's a good chance we can land them as a sponsor. And if you go there and send me proof of purchase, just send me the confirmation email to mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com. I will send you an autographed copy of the Kwame Sutra, and Sean will send you daggers just mean stares.
No, just say Harry instead of hirsute. Just say Harry. Come on, man.
Is it pronounced hirsute? I thought it was hirsute.
Or the opposite of what's on your face. Just say something like that, right? Just come on.
Promo code ML will get you what you're looking for.
There really is nothing like a shorn scrotum. It's breathtaking. I suggest you try it.
Oh, they got a laugh out of Matt.
Yeah, I'm back. So now I think we're still on Geek of the Week. Anyways,
yes, yeah.
our first
You're
finalist.
So flustered.
One of the whitest women alive, by the way. Super smart but super snarky New York Times columnist Maureen Dowd, who last week wrote about the groundbreaking Democratic ticket of Walter Fritz Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro, which was crushed by Ronald Reagan in 1984. Dowd wrote, "It's hard to fathom, but it has been 36 years since a man and woman ran together on the Democratic Party ticket." Now, Maureen Dowd is always, knows more than everybody else, but I wonder what Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine thought when they read that. I remember those crazy kids who ran for president on the Democratic ticket in 2016.
Oh, boy.
Then there's our old friend and good old boy Alabama State Rep Will Dismukes of Prattville, who faced widespread calls for his resignation after he spoke at a celebration honoring the Ku Klux Klan's first Grand Wizard. He was a finalist not so long ago in this competition. Well, he's in the finals again because earlier this month, Dismukes was arrested on a felony charge of first-degree property theft. Prosecutors say the legislator sold thousands of dollars between 2016 and 2018 from a flooring company where he worked before his election to the Alabama House of Representatives. His attorney, Trey Norman, of course it's the South, so he's got to be named Trey, told WSFA, "I don't think any money was taken by anyone. Second of all," you're listening, Sean? Okay, never mind. "Second of all, if I worked for someone and they accused me of taking money, I wouldn't expect 4 years to go by before anyone said anything to me." Well, yeah, try selling that in court, Trey. But our winner, and actually I should say our loser, is the Leelanau County Road Commission member who offered this explanation for why he wasn't wearing a mask at a public meeting. "Well, this whole thing is because of them N's in Detroit," only he didn't say N's. After he was rebuked, Commissioner Tom Eckerly added, "I can say anything I want. Black Lives Matter has everything to do with taking the country away from us." That would have been more than enough for us to win this prize, but Eckerly, in an interview later with Interlochen Public Radio, said, "I don't recalling it an N. An N is an N is an N. That's not a person whatsoever." Eckerly resigned just 2 years into a 6-year term. Even though this segment is called Geek of the Week, we don't go in for name calling here unless it's amongst ourselves. But since we've already dipped our toe into these troubled waters, this week we, like Eckerly, are going to double down. So, sir, geek is too mild a term to describe your ignorance. You are our first ever huge, festering asshole of the week.
The kids are soft.
I don't care for that guy.
Me neither. Too soft.
I'm gonna pretend like you didn't just make my dick go soft.
You might like your history soft, but you want your money working hard, and it's harder than ever to get the results you're looking for. So I recommend contacting our friend and sponsor, Luke Nowacki. Some people like to save up for something really nice, like a new earring that looks cool, or maybe even a time machine that could take you back to the 90s when dudes with earrings that weren't pro athletes were a thing. They may have even gone to strip clubs. It's jewelry, right? And could be white guys. But if you're wondering how you can budget for a major purchase, call Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748 or email Luke at lnowacki, that's LNOWACKI, at pinnaclewealthstrategies.com. He can assist you to devise a plan targeted to help you reach your financial goals. And with Luke Nowacki, he'll make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA-SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates, Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates, Inc.
Luke is also a generous sponsor of all the Red Shovel Network shows, but when you contact him, and you can find a link to his page on our homepage, make sure to let him know that ML sent you, because we want to get some credit there, folks. So, and now, for credit towards your PhD in history, let me see if I can make that right. Now for your PhD in history, It's Professor Matt Jennings coming to us live from
Detroit,
where he's
Michigan.
alive. From Detroit, Michigan. All right. Welcome.
I'm on 4th Street in downtown, about 2 miles from all the big buildings.
Ooh.
Okay.
What do you got
Welcome
for
to
us?
our jurisdiction.
Yes, glad to be here. I'm Soul Detroit, after all.
Well, take it away, my friend. What happened today
Here again.
on another day?
Okay, well, this is what happened this week in history. In 1955, Tokyo Communications Engineering, later to be known as Sony, began selling their first transistor radio, making the tweaking of nipples to tune in obsolete. Oh, thanks, dog.
The dog approved.
Well, we got above the waistline, so we'll take that.
Yeah. All right, in 1978, Jimmy Carter declared a state of emergency at the Love Canal due to things that were going in there that should not be. David Bowie and Mick Jagger had never been more insulted.
Wait, what did he do? What did Carter do? I don't know
He
this story.
declared
You know
a
the
state of
story?
emergency at the Love Canal.
What the hell's a love canal? Do you
It
know?
was a massive toxic waste site where companies had been dumping chemicals into the now ironically named Love Canal. If you remember from Tootsie, I think Bill Murray was writing a play about the Love Canal, and he wanted Dustin Hoffman to star in it, but it wasn't going very far. By the way, that was one of the great supporting roles ever by Bill Murray, where he played sort of a bit part, but kind of stole some of the show.
Big Tootsie fan, huh?
Good movie.
Okay.
I found it very empowering for women, even though the woman was a man.
That's okay.
There was an opening for Sean there, but he's
still laughing.
He's
He had to mute himself. He was laughing so hard.
He's furiously responding to posters on his Tinder account.
Next.
In 1984, an Annapolis, Maryland man found a 4-inch lobster in his swimming pool after a torrential rainfall. Oddly enough, it's the same thing Teresa Baldus found when she caught ML getting out of a tanning bed.
Of course, it was 4 inches across.
Oh, lucky guy.
Good one. And much easier to find thanks to the Lawnmower 3.0, which you can get at manscaped.com. Promo code ML.
Shamelessplug.com. And finally, in 1990, fossil hunter Susan Hendrickson discovered 3 huge bones belonging to the world's largest ever discovered T-Rex off a cliff in South Dakota. Suzanne Hendrickson would become one of the most renowned fossil hunters of her time, followed by Anna Nicole Smith.
Hey, that's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah. Hey, what was that? 1 for 4?
No, I got to tell you, when you said
that's good. Fossil bones at the beginning, fossil bones at the end.
I was a little worried where you're going with bones, but
I was too. I thought you were going to make it. I thought you were going to make
Total
it
dick
4-4. Well, I guess one was nipples, but so 3 or 4. So that was.
And that could have been anybody's. So I'm not just saying anything bad.
If you say so.
There's an all-night party in room 7609. And you can dance together all night if you've got the time.
Well, if you found the walls closing in on you, maybe the rooms are too small, maybe it's like a hotel room, like our New Wave Suite, room 7609, it's time for you to call our realty sponsor, Lindsay Broadwell. When it's time to move into a new house, whether you're buying, selling, or both, you need to contact Lindsay Broadwell. Your house is one of your most valuable investments, and that's why you need an agent you can trust and who knows the business inside and out. Lindsay started her career at Hall Financial. Now she's an expert in real estate. She'll make sure you get the most out of your house and that everything goes smoothly by finding you a new home that fits your lifestyle. Buyers, sellers, especially first-time buyers, make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com or 248-767-7767. She's a licensed realtor at RE/MAX Nexus. That's BroadwellHomes.com, and tell Lindsay that ML sent you. And welcome to our New Wave Suite, Room 7609, where this month we are looking at covers done by New Wave artists. Last week we had a fierce debate over whether REM was a New Wave band. We agreed to disagree on that one, but this week there's no question that Bow Wow Wow fits the bill.
I know a guy who's tough but sweet. He's so fine he can be beat. He's got everything that I desire. Sets the summer sun on fire. I want candy. I want candy. Go to see him when the sun goes down. Ain't no finer boy in town. You're the guy what the doctor ordered. So sweet you make my mouth water. I want candy. I want candy. Yeah! Candy on the beach, there's nothing better. But I like candy when it's wrapped in a sweater. Someday soon I'll make you mine. And I'll have candy all the time. I want candy. I want candy. I want candy. I want candy. Hey! 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 Hey!
So anybody who remembers Bow Wow Wow will not forget that early MTV heavy rotation video of lead singer Annabella Lewin with her mohawk in the surf. Very alluring, very appealing. But before you get too carried away, when she joined the band, she was only 13.
What? I didn't know that.
We don't know what her age was when that video was shot, so we're going to presume that that was 5 years into the existence of Bow Wow Wow. But Bow Wow Wow was a band that was put together by Malcolm McLaren, who you may know as one of the guys who was a prime mover behind the Sex Pistols, had some interaction with the Buzzcocks, who we featured on this show a couple weeks ago, and was sort of a music impresario in the punk new wave movement back in the 70s and early 80s. But to many of us who first heard this song and just thought it's a cool little, 2.5 minute ditty, sort of a new wave version of The Letter, where somebody takes it and knocks it out real fast and then you're on to the next thing. This actually was first recorded in 1965 by a group called the Strangeloves. And the thing about the Strangeloves that's so interesting is that they were sort of a fraudulent band. They claimed to be 3 Australian brothers, Giles, Niles, and Miles, who were ex-sheep herders. And they put on some shaggy wigs and some costumes when this thing reached top 20 in the U.S., top 10 in Canada. Strangely enough, it didn't do very well in the United Kingdom, which, of course, Australia is a part of. So maybe they sussed out the fraud, as they would say over there. But it's one of the great new wave tunes that really isn't a new wave tune, but became a new wave tune, not just because of the band, not just because of the sort of orchestrated makeup of the band. I mean, this is, again, a band that probably had more to do with who the members were than any sort of musical message they were trying to express.
With Bow Wow Wow.
But, yeah, I mean, I think that band without Annabelle in front is
nothing. Yeah, nothing.
A bunch of jokers nobody cares about.
Whatever happened to her? Did she ever go to any other band? I feel like that's the only thing she's known for is I Want Candy in the video.
That's a good question. I do not know what happened to her. I have to be honest. My research was going backwards as opposed to forwards, but I think that was pretty much it for her.
Looks like she's still alive.
I don't want to confuse her with the lead singer of Romeo Void, who sometimes I confuse her with, who ended up dating Fernando Valenzuela when he was the hottest thing ever for the LA Dodgers back in the 80s. But yeah, I suspect she's probably only about 30 now. So there's many acts ahead for Annabella. Sean, danceable beat. You like the guitars. What was it about that song that roused you from your slumber?
It's a fun little song. You know, I'm not really into your pedophilia, but it's a fun little song.
Again, I preface this that I'm pretty sure that video was shot 1 hour after her 18th birthday. But
okay.
That may have been part of the celebration. We don't know, but yeah. Anyways, a great new wave cover tune. We've had a few nominations for other new wave cover tunes that we may roll out this month. If you have something you'd like to hear in Room 7609, if you have a tune that was covered by a new wave band that you'd like us to play before the end of the month, send your nomination to mlsoulofdetroit@gmail.com or give us a call at 313-288-9070. That's the Butterfield 89070 line, and we will hear you, we will share it, and we will try and get that in our rotation. Also, I am, as we speak, working on a very cool Room 7609 piece of merchandise that we hope to be adding to our merch store very soon. You may have noticed that we added masks and gaiters to the merch store. So we encourage you to wear a mask or a gaiter, no matter who made it. This is not about, it is about making money for us, but it's really about safety. But since we're advocating, we figure we should give you something fashionable. And we think these are so cool looking that even if you think masks are bullshit, you might want to wear one just to be considerate and very fashion forward. You can get all that stuff, including our hockey jerseys, which are on sale and come with a free signed copy of the Kwame Sutra at drewandmikestore.com. We really want to hear from you. We really want to take your money, and we really want to see you wearing our very groovy, as you can see, logo.
Beautiful logo.
Wherever you go. And we got t-shirts, we got stickers, we got all kinds of swag. So go and get you some. It's a way to support the show and make a statement as well. And a guy who has been making a lot of statements, some of which should come with a slap, but who's been just banging it for as long as I can. I don't know. Maybe it's just because maybe he's got a little touch of like some mutation of the coronavirus. I don't know what it is, but Sean Windsor has been on point, bringing it, cutting through the fog type of guy at the Free Press. And Sean, your latest column talking about college football, your column on the Harbaugh Day spat. I mean, well done, my friend. Let's talk about that latest column and this whole issue of the wild, wild west that is college sports.
I'm touched that you consider me a friend.
Well, because you're white.
Well, I mean, I guess that probably makes sense, but still, I mean, there are millions and millions of white people, and so that you chose me.
I'm always intrigued.
I'm honored.
I'm always intrigued at the feedback you get from columns, just in general. How was the last one? Because as we mentioned earlier, we talked about it. Quit acting like preserving the Big Ten is about the players. What kind of feedback have you gotten from that one? Because it's really, as you've seen online, it's touched a nerve with a lot of people.
Oh, for sure it did. I actually was surprised at the amount of folks who agreed with and liked that. Or I shouldn't say like, but just like the sentiment of the column. But I did get, some folks that did not, and they expressed themselves in all sorts of ways. The folks that email me and just say, hey, I don't agree, or the column is garbage or whatever, that's fine. And then there are emails like this. Would you like to hear one?
Would I? Yes.
Would you?
Please.
Okay. I'm sorry for the Elrickian setup there. It was
I love any kind of feedback.
Okay, here's one. I'm not going to use the name. I mean, right. But it's from a gentleman
Yeah, it's from NotML on the east side at yahoo.com.
Yeah, this is from a gentleman who I assume resides somewhere on Earth, and it's short. And he used 1, 2, 3 ellipses, which I
okay.
I kind of like the ellipses, but
it's a little overused, but okay.
Yeah, it's a pause. It's something we're working on with Elric.
I think
I get him to pause once in a while.
I think I hate exclamation points more, but go ahead.
I hate it. So this is when he writes: "These players are the perfect example of those who are the most safe from the China virus. You are a complete pussy. You can stay home if you're so afraid of a virus. The male population has been feminized. You're Exhibit A." He spelled "you're" wrong. And whatever. We're not going to get into his typos. I'm not sure where to start there. I mean, the China virus.
I
right?
mean, I don't even care about that. I don't care what you call it, but the fact.
Well, no, I do because I was just talking to a friend the other day. She's Chinese American. Her parents immigrated. She was talking about an experience up north with her 2 daughters. Her husband's white. Her 2 daughters look Chinese American, and they're getting some ice cream. And the comments that they got, and people whispering and pointing at them, and a couple of people saying, "Why did you bring the virus?" So that's the effect China virus has, or Wuhan flu. So it's easy for us to say, no offense, Mark, but I hear these stories sometimes. So when you say it like that, then people who are Americans who were born here have to hear that shit. So anyway, I'm off my soapbox. We can talk about him calling me a pussy.
I understand that, and I do empathize with it. My only problem with it, and maybe it's easy for me to see it because I'm not Asian, is the fact that it just becomes such a political football and such a dividing thing where now you see the president doubling down and saying it as often as he can, and then people, don't have that. A lot of people don't have a problem with it. I think there's better things to argue about how he's handled the virus than what he's called it.
No, I totally agree.
I don't find any of it acceptable.
Why do that when it frees? No, admittedly, it's a small percentage of people. I like to think to go off and say that kind of stuff, right? It's just there's no need for it. In any case. Let's get back to talking
wait a minute. I saw on Sinclair Broadcasting that Dr. Fauci created the coronavirus and sent it over there. So what's this crazy stuff you guys are talking about?
I know. Can we just get back to the fact that I'm a pussy and Exhibit A for being feminized?
Well, I want to get to his other point too about how what did he say exactly? Young people are the least affected by it, but they're also lately been the biggest spreaders of it too. And Harbaugh's comments the other day about how perfectly they've done everything.
It was so Michigan.
It was it pains me to agree with that. It was very Michigan of him to say that. And I really
figured it out, right?
Well, I really think he forgot that you're not going to be scrimmaging yourself. You're going to be playing other schools and other teams that might not be doing as good of a job as you have. And now there's a story out today where 5 athletes in the Big Ten have been found to have heart inflammation that is caused by a virus. They don't know if it's coronavirus, but it's a virus. But I think Harbaugh forgets that, you play against another team. And not only that, you're traveling, which are the one thing you're not supposed to be doing.
No, I agree. It's
but you're not going to convince that emailer. He wants.
No, I will email him back and thank him from the note. It's what I try to do. As much as you might want to, go back or maybe I would want to write back and say, look, I played football in high school, which I did, and I loved it. And I wrestled. I wasn't very good at it because I was too tall and had no leverage and too thin. But I'm not going to do that.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, I used to get down on the box or the block, as we would say, with Elric and bang a little bit and throw elbows and all that. It's not that. It's funny that if you are worried about the safety and health of the players to a certain percentage of folks out there, that makes you soft, or that means you don't like the sport. It's just a lot more nuance than that. And nuance is gone right now, right, Mark?
Yes, we've been saying that for a long time. Nuance does not exist. You have to take a side and back it no matter what, and it's very annoying.
Yeah,
even hippies love football.
Everyone loves football. It's my favorite form of entertainment. I don't want it to disappear, but
it's great. People of all sorts of political persuasions love football.
Yep.
Yes, we do, and I wish it would come back, but I'm not willing to risk the lives of young people so that I can watch it on TV because I don't think I'll be able to take my seats in Spartan Stadium. But anyway, Sean, great work at the Free Press. Please check it out at freep.com where you can also find Teresa Baldus's work, and occasionally I throw something in there myself. You can also buy one at newsstands. We like that too, especially us old dudes who prefer that tactile experience. So
one quick thing, Mike. Hey, let me nominate you next time. I'd be honored to nominate you. I don't want you to nominate yourself. You wouldn't feel good about it if you won that way. I'll do it.
I'll just tell you that I don't know that I've done anything that would be worth nominating this year.
Yeah,
but
you put up with me.
Every time I win a prize, it comes with a pay cut, or I got to share the money. So it's not that big a deal. Now Teresa won a prize, and you know how much that money got shared?
All of it, probably, knowing you.
Nothing.
Good.
So,
good. It's her prize.
So
that's why you're doing this.
So there's that. Yeah, that's where I got the side gig. It was side hoe or side gig, and she said, "Go with the side gig." So that's fine. Anyways, we appreciate hearing from you, even if you have something nasty to say. Last week, if you missed it, we had the first ever Detroit podcast wake for Honest John Thompson, the proprietor of Honest John's Bar No Grill. And we also talked about Jamie Samuelson, who I believe was laid to rest today, and Sean's brother-in-law, Don Moray. So if you missed that episode, please go back and check it out. You know who was listening as we were doing that live on Facebook was a kinfolk of John's, a gentleman named Mike writing to us from Florida, who says, "I'm actually typing this from Thompson's house in Florida. Thompson's wife's first husband is my mom's brother, and I never lost touch with my Aunt Irene, even after they got divorced. My wife, Lori, reached out to John, asking if there was a memorial for her last summer shortly after he moved. And since then, he's been pretty much his primary caregiver until he passed away. Lori was in the room with him when he crossed over to Valhalla on the 10th of July. There are other stories besides the basketballs and soccer balls. He had the Cape Coral PD pass out. John moved to Cape Coral, Florida, some time ago. There's a bar just down the street from the house called the Cape Clubhouse. He was there daily in the morning with his last bouvier, Esther, having a few drinks with all the other old men that hang out at the bar. When I was there, I would go with him. We had a small get-together here at the house the weekend before last for him, and most of the regulars showed up. To a person, we heard about how much he helped them. He'd give out odd jobs to people and pay them a lot more than they deserved. He paid $200 to a guy who was homeless to close the hurricane shutters on his house when Dorian was out in the Atlantic last year, and it was looking like it was going to come here. When I told him I could do it, he'd have none of it. He told me to pour myself a drink and relax. He was loved down here, and they're going to miss him here too. Talking a little bit about the old place on Field before he moved to Midtown, he says that his wife, what she heard today kind of drove home how special the Field Street Bar was, and that was good for her to hear. If anyone is interested, right after he passed, we bought a paver and had it placed at Sunset Point on Belle Isle. So we really appreciate Mike sharing some of those memories and all the memories people have shared with us about Honest John. And if you missed the show, listen up, check it out, share it. And we'd like you to listen to all our shows, to share it, to subscribe, to rate it. And we'd appreciate if you'd support the other Red Shovel Network shows. That is No Filter Sports with Eli, Denny, and Bob, the No BS News Hour with Charlie LaDuff and our friend Mark Fellhauer, and, of course, the Drew and Mike podcast, which is on daily, also with our friend Mark Fellhauer. Is that why there's no new Charlotte and Dad podcast? What happened to that franchise?
Funny you mention it. She just has not been. I think she's pod faded. She doesn't want to do it anymore. So. I've talked to her about doing a new one with her sister as a special guest because that 2.5-year-old won't stop talking.
Wow. So she's gotten too big for her britches before she's out of kindergarten?
I just think she has other things she wants to do than do a silly little podcast. So bless her.
What's she think? Books and movies? The Appalachian Trail? What the hell? She's 5 years old.
Reading. A lot of reading.
Good for her.
A lot of singing and dancing to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you'll encourage her to subscribe to the Free Press.
She will. Yeah, she can read. Well, everybody in the family will have their own subscription. She doesn't end up reading a penis cake story by mistake. Also, strangely, when I was looking at that story on the app today, I was refreshing my memory. One of the first links that popped up was to a Jamie Samuelson tribute. I'm not sure what the crossover between Samuelson and penis cake is. You would find it
funny. Anyways, you have been listening to ML Soul of Detroit on the Red Shovel Network. Buy our swag. Go to drewandmikestore.com. In the meantime, it's time for Cyrus, which is near Cyprus, where you see a lot of guys wearing jewelry, to take us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Quality even to the appearance of the bright, clean yellow package. Carefully wrapped and sealed to bring you
Soul of Detroit's
rich, fresh, extra mild flavor.
Soul of Detroit.
Cost the same as other Long's
free podcasts.
But your first puff will tell you.
Ah, that's different.
Yes, in
Soul of Detroit,
the difference is quality.